All right, so this is ITS128, and let me share my screen here. Main screen like this. And today we're gonna finish up the chapter on classes. If we look at where we are in the syllabus, we are right like today's the 26th. Oh, 27th. Oh, so it's like this day, but we've sort of gotten off because of, I didn't account for Veterans Day, I think. Anyway, so that's where we are. That's where we are in the lectures. Okay, so somebody suggested I have a person on each side assigned to make sure that thing stays on. So thank you. You're assigned and you're assigned. So if we open up the textbook, I think I'll show you where we are with the textbook. This thing doesn't seem to be working. This is my, we are in chapter 9. And what I'd like to review today is there's a section here, 9.5, on finding the classes and their responsibilities in a problem. And this is sort of the motivation for our having classes in the first place. It's a way of dividing up the problem into entities that sort of make sense to humans, and we and the computer program, your computer program, sort of mimics these real life events. And so and this is really the only systems analysis and design sort of section in this book, and this is what you need to think about when you're designing a system from scratch. And this is the kind of thing that your team thinks about, or your project leader thinks about, when they are partitioning up the software for the programmers to start writing programs. Now, so this hypothetical scenario here is you have an automotive shop, and the idea is that you sort of start with a written description of the problem, and in this case, you know, automotive shop specializes in servicing foreign cars, and there's the automotive shop, there's the customer, and there's the manager, and there's this service quote, which has the estimate of charges. And this goes through a process of identifying the nouns. If you want to look at a more formal way of what you're doing, you're sort of identifying all these nouns, which sort of will represent classes. And here's a bunch of them, but they are actually reduced down through this process here, which you can read, to 3. I think you have a car and a customer and a service quote, and everything else is either part of that entity or the same as that entity. And then here we continue on and sort of describe how the components of a class, and we have private fields, and we have this constructor here, which is what you use to create a new object of that class type. And then these are the class members, and members can be properties, and they can also be methods. Okay, so so today, to sort of reinforce this, I'd like to see how to make sure we're still sharing my screen here. Yeah. I'd like to go back to my assignment 12. Let's pull up assignment 12 here, just so we can remind ourselves of what it does. This is go to assignments 12. We are going to take this this problem that we did assignment 3 through 7, and I mentioned we would return to this, and that problem, of course, had us create, in the end, something like this, where we started with just, 3 mathematical tests, or arithmetic tests, which demonstrate the differences in the types, the number types in C#. We can save numbers as integers, we can save numbers as doubles, as decimals, and this particular example here sort of is designed to put in numbers and so on to illustrate the differences. And we had a division test, we had a divisions test here, and an additions test, and a performance of doing a calculation using double precision numbers, and the same test using decimal type numbers. And I had you go through and show that you knew how to use these different form components. Radio buttons, I had you make checkboxes that acted like radio buttons, and then you could invoke these functions using a list box and so on. And in this assignment 12 now, I've asked you to go back and instead create using different forms, putting each separate function on different forms, and then having a master form here where you click a button and then the division test comes up, and you click another button and the addition test comes up, and you click a third button and the precisions test comes up, and you click the fourth button. I asked you to add the fourth button to click, so your legacy, your old form comes up. I said it didn't have to be assignment 7, it could be 6, 5. And actually, what it is, it's probably the assignment that you're going to start with to create this whole thing. And so that's what this does. And then here's a quit button. And the reason this assignment is relevant in this chapter is because each one of these forms is a separate class. So this is the first assignment where we're doing multiple forms, and since each form is a class, it makes sense to do it very simply, to demonstrate that. And what you did was you took the code, the C# code, out of this form, and you copied it into this form for the division, and you grabbed the addition test out of that and copied it into this form, and this one, the precision tests. All right, so what I'd like to show you today is more on classes. And instead of having classes be separate forms, we can have classes be the separate mathematical functions, the tests. And so I've opened up assignment 12 here, and I've cleverly started it up beforehand so I wouldn't have to take 5 minutes to sign in. And if we just run this now, we can see what this looks like. This is, I think, how far I got with, yeah, okay, so here's the division test, and you can execute it, and it displays the results over here, and then you have to close it, and then you can start up the additions test, and you can start up the precisions test, and so on. And this is my legacy form, and then you can quit. Okay, so first of all, I'd like to show you something. The main form looks like this. It's the design main. It's this. So these are the buttons. Let's go into the event handlers for these buttons. Double click on that, and should come up inside here. Yeah, it sure takes a long time to get things started. Okay, here it is. And I wanted to point out that there's what's called modeless forms and modal forms. Modal forms, and you'll hear that term more often. Modal, and what does modal mean? But it means that you actually switch mode. It takes away the mode. So you notice that when we run this, when the division test is up, I was not able to do anything else. Okay, well, modeless with mode free, you can actually take out the word dial instead of using the show dialog method. You use just the show method, and it opens it up in mode freeze, modeless. All right, so I like this better. So you can you can pop all these bad boys up at once, whatever. Do some stuff here. All right, and you can quit, and quits the whole thing. All right, now in this let's take the divisions test. It's this, and if we look at the code behind, let's see, divisions. I don't want to double click on that thing again. Here it is. It looks like this, and we have the code. This is the event handler for clicking the execute button, and then this, grabs the values from the text boxes, and then this this code here does the first division test where we are using integers and a single type number for a nice factor, and then we do this calculation, and which involves a division, and you don't really have to sort of really know what's going on here, but just know that there's a multiplication and a division, and there's different number types, and we're storing the result into a double, which can have a decimal point. And in this other test here, we're using integer, all integer type numbers, and we do the calculation, and we store the result into an integer number, and we see that for many of the calculations where we're comparing the two, same calculation between the two, the numbers are different. And the reason is because integers can't store decimal points, and when you're dividing, you're going to have a lot of decimal points lots of times. So so this particular test here, here we had a bunch of try parses to make sure that the inputs were correct, but maybe it would make sense where the just think about how you would be designing a system like this, and it's a large system, and there's lots of complicated forms. There might be a team that works on the forms, and they do all kinds of stuff like interface to the user and all that. And then there's another team that writes the code, because maybe they're kind of people that don't like to interface with users or whatever. They'd rather bury their head and write code. And the team that works on the forms, they certainly have to know about code. They're going to be doing coding, but they're not going to be doing all this calculation stuff. They might not really care about the difference in these types and these data types, only that it does this discount calculation correctly, because the user wants to make sure that the discount calculation is the right formula. Well, to do in a sort of a situation like that, you would have the folks that write the code write these division tests, these test classes that the people that were working on the form interface would simply call or use or instantiate, as they say. So the way to do that, let's put this division test into its own class, okay? And then that really shortens up, this code, because all we're doing is we're calling we're creating an instance of a division test class, and then we're asking it to do stuff and you know, passing it stuff, and it passes back results, and it's magic to the people that are writing the form, but to the people that are writing the code, they might think that this here is designing the form is magic or boring. So let's start. We go over and we're going to add a new file, a new class. So I right click and I say new, add new item, or I can go directly to class, but I'll go to new item because that's the most general. And I'm going to add a new class, and let's call this class division test .cs. Okay, so now we have this new class, and the first thing I want to notice here, which I noticed last night when I was practicing this, is the namespace here says this. I changed the namespace a while ago, and this namespace is different. That's not right. And why? Because there's a default namespace someplace right here. And so let's change that namespace to what we had it before, Halverson _12. I'm going to copy this, copy, and I'm going to go over to that, what happened to that? Paste it in here, and I'm going to paste it in here. And I think that's all I need to do. Oh, I got it. I can just save it. And then over here, I need to change this to rename the same thing. Apply. All right, it's fixed. Okay, so so this is a division. This is division test, and first of all, we're going to expect the max discount percent in. Let's go over and look at this. We're going to expect this value and this value and this value, which are strings. These are just strings. We're going to expect those in, and what we will return will be the text output that goes here. So so let's start by creating some private fields. It's inside here. Oh, first of all, let's make this a public class so everybody can use it. And I'm gonna create a private field, a private string, which this is where I'm gonna hold those text boxes internally. I'll call the first one max discount PCT in, and the next one private string markup PCT in. So this would be what holds the second. I think I got my fingers on string. And then let's create a third one for that nice factor, that third text box. I'm just going to suffix these with the word so I can. Okay, now we have to do this constructor part. If we look back at the textbook, we see the next section here is the constructor, and the constructor is the thing that you use to create the class, to create an instance of the class. To you know, when you are creating new things like new variables that are arrays and so on, you know, you start out with the word array or whatever, and then the variable name, and the equal sign, and then the word new, and then the thing that you're creating with the parentheses, left and right parentheses. When you're doing that, you're creating a new object of that type, and so the user of this, they're going to create a new object, a division test type object, and this is what they're going to use to do it. We want them to be able to create a new instance of it with default variables, with these things filled in. So let's let's make the constructor be that. Public, all constructors are public, and it's the same name as the class itself. And I'm going to use parentheses, and I'm going to have a string max discount coming in, and a string markup, I'm going to just call it that, coming in, and a string, a nice factor coming in. And what that's going to do is it's going to take those values and it's going to set max discount PCT in equal to max discount, and it's going to set markup PCT, I'm talking about these things up here, these internal things, equal to markup, which is this thing. And then the third one is nice factor in is equal to this nice F or whatever. So these are the parameters coming in, and so we've initialized them here. Now another thing is that it turns out that if we actually define a constructor that's not the default constructor, we actually have to, and we want the default constructor, we actually have to put that in, saying we want the default constructor. And we want to be able to create this instance of a division test without any initialization parameters. Maybe they're going to be initialized later on. We're going to have to create a facility for them to initialize those parameters. But so we put that public division test and just this. Oops. And then just this. And that's what you use if you want to just create a new object of this class type and you don't want to give it any parameters. Okay, now let's add, we want the user to be able to set these. We might not necessarily need the user to be able to see what they are once they're set, but we certainly need the user to be able to set these. So let's create accessors, the accessors for these parameters to be set. And the way we do that is we start out with, let's create the first one, public. It's a public string, and we'll make it the max discount accessor. And we are going to be able to set it, but we don't need to be able to get it, so we're just going to do a set. And so what we do is we set max discount %in equal to the value that's coming in, and that's just that's a default. It looks like that. So that'll let the user set max discount %in, this thing, but not see it. And so let's do the same thing for the remaining two. This goes here, and this goes here, and let's call this nice factor, and let's call this markup %. And max discount. Okay, so these are the accessors to those. And then the important thing is we need to put in the methods to do the two division calculations. So there's going to be two of them. Let's make one of them be, let's call it public, and let's have it return a string. Let's have it return the output string. So it'd be a string, and let's call it integer divide. So this will be the integer division one. And then there'll be another one, which will be the double one, the double division one. Public string double divide. class goes till 12 o'clock. And I'm going to pop my code in here for the integer divide and pop my code in here for the double divide. Let's see. Okay, so let's go over and find it. Division test. Division test. And that was I need this stuff here, don't I? No. I need some parses to convert those into the numbers I need, don't I? To convert them into these numbers. I don't do that anymore. No, I guess not. This is division. Okay. Well, first of all, this is double. This is in division. Let me grab this code. And I got to remember that it's byte int. So I'm going to integer divide, and I got to do byte int. Okay, so byte max discount percent equals, and I'll just do byte parse. And it is max, it's the inside one, max discount percent in. Yes. So, max discount percent is passed in. It's just a string from the text box, string from the text box, string from the text box. This is what gets them in there. And then this takes the string from the text box, and this first integer divide, we're going to use it as a byte number, so we set it that way. And so this is a byte number. We got to do the same thing for markup percent, which was an int. Markup percent equals int parse markup percent in. And the third one was also an int, which was nice factor equals int parse nice factor in. This one, okay. And then the calculation is discount this, and we want to display out something like this. Okay, so let's create a return variable here. I'm just going to go like this. It doesn't matter. Actually, I can just return this. I'm just going to return this. Return. And I'm going to get rid of this. Okay, so this just returns it. And it's going to return this. Discount int right there, followed by a return. Okay, good. So this is the code for the integer divide. And for the other divide, it is simply, wait, did I? No, I didn't. It is the, I need to set these up. Int single, int single, and we're doing this one. And I'm just going to grab this here and put that above it. But instead of byte, it was int. And this has got to be int. And this was int, and this one was single. And so is this. And this was that, and I can return the same thing. Let me find this. Return this thing. Okay. You following this? All right. So I think this I think this about does it. Okay. So we've got our class. It's called division test. It's got 3 hidden fields. They're private, and we can create an instance of it using this or this. And we can set these, so we can set these separately. That's why we can start it with this, because once we start, before we do these things, we need to set them. So that's what that's for. And then we've got these two methods here that we can call, and they return a string. Okay, so let's test this. How do we test it? Let's go to this thing, and I'm just going to put I'll put this down here. I'm going to put a couple buttons, toolbox, pin, common controls. I'll put a button right up here. And I'm going to have that button say, the text of that button is going to say integer. No, I think I do double first, don't I? Double test. Double division test. And I'm going to name that button BTN double test. And I'm going to make another button. I got to move this down farther. And then I'm going to make another button. I'll just do copy paste. And this button is going to say integer division test. And I'm going to name this button BTN integer test. All right. I should have told you this is probably going to be on your next assignment, but you probably figured that out anyway. Why else would I be doing this? All right. So now we have to hook this up. Well, let's see. Let's go in here. And here's the event handler for double button test. There's various ways that we can use this this new class that we made. One way is let's create a new class, division test, and I'm going to call it DT1 because it's just to sort of exemplify that it's just the name, equals a new division test. No, I can make it, let's use the first constructor I created, txt max discount percent. I'm going directly to the text file, to the text boxes. txt markup percent, text. txt nice factor, txt. Okay, so that just creates them, and then let me do dt dot what did I call it? Double divide. Well, that returns something. That returns something. So let me do a message box. I gotta put a space there, otherwise it doesn't know what I'm doing. Message box dot show parentheses that. Okay, so it's just gonna execute it, get the string, show it out. All right, let's see. Let's try this. Okay, it's popped this out. Double test. Click. Double. Yeah, okay. Looks right. Let me just click this execute here. See, double. It does the double one, 20 bucks. 20 bucks. All right. This one doesn't work yet. Okay, so let's quit. So let's do the other one. Double click. Here's that. We're going to do the same thing. except for I'm going to do this integer divide. Okay, so this will do the same thing except for do the integer divide. Just to confirm that, we do division test. Let's double integer. Okay. Now, this is kind of dumb because we're creating a new instance of this thing twice. Let me show you the other ways that we can use this class. Let's take this and put it on the outside. I'm going to copy it and I'm going to put it right up here. So when it comes in, does something. Now this doesn't work. See, doesn't work because this thing executes before these are even created. Okay, this thing executes at the very beginning, just like everything's starting up. You know, all the rest of these things execute because of some event handling. But this thing, like, it's initializing the whole form, and then what? You expect there to be some data inside these text boxes? No. So out here, let's now we could put strings directly into here, or we can just do this. In fact, why don't I put strings directly into this? I'm going to do 30, whatever they were. No, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to do nothing because that's misleading. Okay, so I've created this this object outside. Okay, so it's created, and now down here to use it, why don't I use those accessors? It's going to seem like more. Yeah, it's going to seem like humbug, but let me just do it. So you got to go dt1 dot, and we called it max discount equals this. I think that works. The next one is dt1 markup percent equals txt markup percent dot text. Third one is dt1 dot nice factor equals txt nice factor dot text. Okay, so this first line here grabs out whatever is written in that text box and sends it over to this thing, which is we could do it by putting parentheses because it's actually a method which is accepting a parameter, but this works. Oh, this should be markup. That's what it was. So this is actually using, this one is using this one. That's why it's capital max discount, capital markup PCT, which is using this one and so on. And then this calls it double divide. Sad thing is we got to do the same thing for both. But at least we're not creating a new object unnecessarily. Let's see if this works. Division test. See what this looks like. Yes. Oops. Yes. Okay. Now, all right, works. Okay. So now Now, I guess we could integrate this in, and the way I guess we would do that would be, you know, we should probably put these tri-parses on over here, put the tri-parses over here, someplace. Let me get rid of this. All right, so anyway, that's a good example of classes. What we did was we instead of incorporating the code inside this form, which the code is right here, instead of incorporating the code inside here, we created a separate class, and the class, which looked like this, and this class did the functions here. And so once this DT1 was created, then we can assign values to it, and we can use these methods that it provides. Let's see, we actually have a lot of time. Does anybody have anything else they'd like me to do, or have any questions? All right, okay, so I didn't expect to have to do this, but I'm going to. I'm going to try to incorporate this tri-parse testing inside the class someplace. And we could incorporate inside the class. Yes, we need to incorporate inside the class because it actually has to be incorporated inside the methods, because it's inside the methods in the class that actually does the conversion or assigns the type to that string. So in that case, let's just throw in some tri-parses inside there, which should be in here, and we could replace this with a tri-parse, and it would be something like if byte tri-parse parentheses max discount %in, if that will parse to a byte, then put that value, that byte value, into max discount %. This one. Oops, I shouldn't have done that. And so if that works, then we can go ahead and do some more. If I gotta put, wait a second, I gotta put this down below because they have to have been declared already. If int tri-parse parentheses markup %in, if that parses to an integer, then deposit the result into markup %. This. And the last thing we need to try is nice factor. So if int nice factor, int tri-parse parentheses nice fact, this is the string now, factor in, if that parses to an integer, then deposit that result into nice factor. And if all of that works, then we are ready to go.
Do you need the out parameter?
The what?
Oh yeah, the out parameter.
Oh yeah. Thank you. glad you're not shy. Okay, all right. So that works, or that should work. Now we should put some kind of, all right, now you notice that I nested my ifs. And you notice in the other code, they're not nested, okay? What's the advantage of not nesting them? Well, even if the first one fails, you can continue to check. So that way, you can give the user all her errors at once, all their errors at once. His errors, I guess it's an error, so it would be his errors. Whereas this way, it gives you errors one at a time. Now, you know, back in the old computer days, when we would run batch jobs and you have to wait 20 minutes or half an hour to get the results of your run, back then the control data compilers would find an error, but then they would keep on going and you'd get a listing of all the errors all the way down to the bottom. But if you write PHP, you'll notice that you just get the errors one at a time. And frankly, I've sort of changed my philosophy, and I kind of like the errors one at a time, because then you can keep track of them. You know, you just fix the first one, fix the second one, and keep track of them. But you don't have this expectation that once that first error is corrected, especially when you're debugging your program for the first time, you know, there's going to be lots of errors. All right. So let's construct some sort of error message for this guy, for this person. So I'm going to do else return nice factor. Oh, no, let's do it right here. Nice factor could not parse to an integer. And let's do one here, and let's do one here. And this one is markup percent could not parse to an integer, and max discount, it doesn't matter, it's just a message, so it doesn't have to be exactly right. Percent could not parse to a byte, whatever. So that throws in those try parses, and now we have those nice error messages for that one. And let's throw similar. Let's do the same thing for down here. Well, I'm just going to do some copy pasting here. Copy. Here. I'll do it right down the bottom here. Here. Okay, so no, it looks like that. Oh, yeah, sure. Okay, so this is going to be int, and this is going to be int, and this is going to be single, and this is going to be double, and could not parse to an integer, could not parse to an integer, could not parse to a single type. And why am I getting, huh? Oh, because of this? Oh, and you can't have any code after return. That's right. Very good. All right, so I got to get rid of this whole thing, right? Yes. So there's that there. There. Okay. All right, let's see if this works. Okay, this should work. Yeah, it works. What happens if I put in 2, 0? Oh, I forgot to take this stuff out. Forgot to take this garbage stuff out. Okay, what I need to do is do this, this, and this, and I can't. I got to take the old parses out. It's messing me up. Okay, let's try that. Let's see what. Let's do 2, 0. What does this do? Markup percent, not an integer. Yeah, it's telling me twice because it does both tests. Okay, this one says markup percent cannot parse to an integer, and this says markup percent. Okay, let's try this. I want to try. Okay, so if I have two errors, then this one tells me both of them. See, it tells me both of them at the same time. This one here tells me that I can't parse into an integer, and this one says can't parse. Is the last one supposed to be an integer? Oh, this is because of that one. Okay. Okay. Oh, because it just finds this error, doesn't go down to this error. So I'm going to replace that with that. So this one should tell me nice factor cannot parse to an integer, and the other one should say cannot parse to a. Did I not change the? Okay, there's an error. This one, nice factor cannot parse to an integer. Nice factor cannot parse to a single. And this should be an integer still. Max discount percent could not parse to an integer. And this one cannot parse to, okay. So now it should work. This one says cannot parse to a single. And this one says cannot parse to an integer. Okay, so now once we have once this actually does everything that it's supposed to do, including the try parses, let's go back in here. I still have 15 minutes. Boy, I'm way ahead of time. Let's go back to the code here, and let's try to get rid of all this old code. Okay, so in other words, I'm going to try to make everything here work using our new class. All right, let's see if I can do that. So I've created an instance of the class right here. I call it DT1. And so this executes the first test here, which is the double test. And this executes the second test here, which is the integer discount. And you recall, just in case you missed that day, the reason we put these inside curly braces is because it gives it a new scope. And we're able to use max discount percent up here in this scope as an integer, and then we can use max discount, same variable name, but down here in this scope as a byte. So that's that was one clever thing I showed him. I did in one class, and I don't remember which one it was, but I've told you this before. All right, so let's replace. See, I gotta set it equal to. So I gotta do one of these, don't I? Gotta do one of these. And I'm going to put that right here. Yeah, that takes care of that. And then I need to console right line. Oh, well, let me just do this. Oh, okay. So the first one is double, so I can just do output string out equals output out string equals DT1 double divide. And then I'm going to go right line oh, I just go console right line out string. And I do, what's the other thing I do? Oh, LBL text, oh, LBL output text. LBL output text also equals out string. Okay? And I can get rid of all this, but I'm nervous, so I'm just gonna, oh, that takes care of this. So that cancels all that out. And so let me just copy this here and go down to, this is going to basically do all this here. So I'm just going to do this. Copy, paste. Jeez. Okay, so this does the double divide. This does the integer divide. All that can be the same. Oh, I don't need to declare this. Only declare it once. And then I can just get rid of all this. I'm just going to be bold and daring and just get rid of it all. Hope this works. Otherwise, I'm... Okay, so that, now I use my class completely, and look at how much smaller the code is. So let's see if it works. Divisions test. This. Oh. Why is it only doing, only did one, didn't it? This one does that. This one does that. This one just does one and doesn't come back. Oh, this still works. But this doesn't come back. Okay, so we got to figure out what's the matter. And first of all, oh, I bet it did work. Let me do that. Let me do that. Okay, so I might have just been overwriting it very quickly. Okay, so we were probably just seeing the right results of the last one. Oh, in fact, I should I should always do that. Wait, do I clear that thing out in the beginning? Ah, yes, I do. In my load handler, actually, I could put my in my load never mind. I'll just, yeah, my load handler, I could actually use the full the other constructor. But anyway, let's see if this works. Visions test, bump, bump, bump. Yes, it is working. Yeah, boy, that's nice. Okay, looks like it works. So in summary, we have taken the old division test, and I can actually, this is inside there. I guess I don't have the old one. I guess I can't show you what the old one looked like. I could actually, oh, here. Let me, can I do this? cancel. Can I rename this? No, I can't. I can forget it. Well, the old one looked like this, if you recall, where we had all this code here that executed with when those buttons, and we had no no class to do this. So in effect, it was responsibility of the person that created the form to also write the code that went along with the form, and this was the code. Whereas in this scenario, we have the person that's writing the form, the division test form, this thing, person that creates this thing, all that person has to know is there's gonna be this class that I can use, and this class lets me set these particular parameters that the banker is the user. The banker says no, it's got to be these parameters, and it's got to look like this because of our users and all this and that. And it's going to do a double function. It's going to do an integer function, and that's it. Okay, it's going to pass back this stuff, and the guys in the back room who are writing the code to do these functions, and who knows what they're doing, but anyway, they write these functions, and they might be coming up with revisions and all this and that. And and all they'll do is give you it's called division test. So they're going to give you a class, a file that's called divisiontest.cs, and this is what it's going to be. And so this will be incorporated in, and in fact, the fact that it's the same namespace means that it'll all be working together, and classes of the same namespace can use this division test because this is defined as a public class. So the world of coding now is there's the people that write the forms and the user interface, and they have to know how to program because they have to understand about how these classes work, how you interface the classes. They have to understand it. They have to understand intimately how you interface with the classes. But what goes inside in the classes, they'll have a rough idea. They could write the code. They could perhaps write the first version. But after that, there's going to be fine tuning and more probably complicated math and so on. And that's sort of left to the people that would rather do that kind of stuff. So anyway, so I don't have anything else. Be sure you sign the sign-in sheet here.
I have a question.
Yes.
In the class,
Yes.
CS file, there's no event handler, right?
That's correct.
Okay. That's like the main difference.
Yeah, with that, the form classes have the event handler because they're connected to things that have events. Okay, so we will see you on Thursday. Thursday's the, yeah, we actually have 3 more classes after this. All right, thanks. Thanks for watching.